So really the way that I characterize search engine visibility is the idea of how do you improve or manage the likelihood that a customer will discover your brand in search?
Right.
And it doesn't have to be your own content. It can be any content, because discovery is equally relevant, whether it's somebody recommending your product or you are actually, recommending your own stuff or providing useful, educational materials. However it takes place it's a totally relevant customer journey.
I really like having guests on the show that teach me something new, but also give you something that's not so overwhelming to do that can really make a significant change in your business. And so I had Chris Dickey on the show, who is the founder and CEO of Visibly. He also has a PR agency called Purple Orange. But I really wanted to focus today on Visibly because it fascinated me what we can do as business owners to improve our brand's search engine visibility, which might not be something that you've heard before. You've heard of SEO and you've heard of other things related to how you show up in search. But if you haven't, today you're going to learn a lot. You're not going to get overwhelmed because I made sure of that. It's like, you know what? Sometimes it can be overwhelming learning new things, but there's some simple things that we can do to improve our search engine visibility and really dramatically increase the percentage of people that are visiting your website. Visibly is the world's first platform to manage brand visibility in search. So it uses machine learning to classify over 100 million domains and websites, and it's actually poised to be an indispensable tool for PR and digital agencies. It's really incredible, really awesome story on how Chris started it and where that came from. And it's a free service too, by the way. So we'll tell you all about how you can get your hands on it and try it out for yourself. But it's a really awesome interview with Chris Dickey today. Enjoy. Chris, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being with me today.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Summer.
Well, I think we're going to talk about some things that we haven't really done a deep dive into on the show, and I'm really looking forward to it. But before I get into all of that genius that you have, can you tell us a bit about your journey, how your company came to be, and what led you to where you are right now? The brief version. I know we can go on the whole. Some people are like,
I hate talking about myself, so no problem. We'll keep it short. My background is really, I'm very much a multi-channel marketer, although I've been working primarily in the public relations sphere for the last 15 or I guess 12 to 15 years. I've worked on in-house marketing at a variety of different companies. I've been in publishing, I've been a marketing director, I've been at startups, I've been at large companies. And then for about the last 12 years, I've been in agency work, primarily in public relations and brand communications. And the way that we've always kind of approached it, especially during this kind of day and age, is, how do you make an impact right now? There's the airwaves and the internet and everything is just so darn saturated with so much content. And there's so much competing voices, as I call it, just static. How do you meaningfully connect with a target customer or an audience? And with public relations, that's been a really fun thing because, what we do is we go out and we basically build relationships and we solicit, reviews or stories with large kind of trusted publications and whatnot. And then they go ahead and kind of tell their audience. It's a very much of building a lot of third-party endorsement. And over the years, I've realized, the media landscape has been changing so rapidly that, historically what we would do is we go talk to magazine editors or people who are on TV or something like that. And now that everything is really happening in the palm of your hand on your phone, that's very much changed. But, I would say that PR and the idea of third-party endorsement is still incredibly powerful. It's just happening in different ways. And so it's kind of pushed me to think about it from a digital perspective and how do we continue to improve and connect meaningfully with customers and stakeholders using the digital landscape.
I love that. Because how old is the company?
So I'm an agency owner, and the agency that I run, and I still do, is called Purple Orange, and it's 11 years old, almost 12. And just a couple of years ago, I started a software company, and I think that's what you're referring to, the company called
Yes.
Visibly, Visably. And Visibly was a software solution that grew out of a practice that we started at the agency, and the recognition of how important search is to the customer journey and to touch points between any kind of business and their customer, and how important it is to saturate those touch points across not just your own content, but say all the PR content out there and all the e-commerce content and all the different ways that you can reach a customer through search. And so what Visibly does is it manages and identifies and measures a brand's footprint or touch points in search.
Ah, okay. Very cool. So, and this was something, what was just for our audience who's been there, in starting new businesses, what was that journey like, starting this, having this idea and then putting it together?
Well, I can tell you with all honesty, I never thought or even wanted to be a tech entrepreneur. It was not even on my radar like 5 years ago. And then, we started working on this practice that was basically, the practice could be summed up as how do we acquire more PR hits that end up at the top of search? Focusing on specific keywords and recognizing, kind of reverse engineering that product discovery process on behalf of our clients, and then using our PR toolbox to go out and win these brand placements where their website could no longer was almost guaranteed not to rank. And so, building visibility within the search engine results page was like a super valuable thing that we were doing, but it was impossible to scale because we were just doing it all very manually. And what I mean by manually is we had to go through and kind of catalog and index all of these results and try to identify where branded content was and where it wasn't, and which keywords mattered and which ones didn't. And I was like, there's got to be a faster way to do this. And so I was looking around for solutions, and of course you don't find the solutions, and then you decide, well, has no one really ever done this? And then you realize no one really has done this before. And then I mean, it's a very common journey, right?
Yeah.
And then, thinking to myself, well, what would it take if I did it? And then the first thing is like, technologically, is it possible? And I did some diligence around that, and the answer seemed to be yes. And then the next thing is, well, where am I going to get this money from? Because this is going to be expensive.
Right.
And I'll be honest, I live in Wyoming, and Wyoming is not known for its tech culture. We're known for woods and bears and moose and energy. And the state of Wyoming is very interested in trying to diversify that economy here. And so we actually won a grant from the government in the state of Wyoming to help us kind of get off the ground, a seed grant. And that gave us the initial money to go out and hire some engineers and develop a proof of concept that worked. And we actually have a patent pending on it. And then from there, once we had this proof of concept and we kind of worked through some of the kinks early on, we were able to present it to some investors. And it was far enough along that they could see the vision, they could see that it worked. And then we got what would be considered a seed round. And so we got our seed round, and that has taken us to where we are today.
Okay. And I know that's kind of the brief. I know there's a lot that goes into it, especially, entering something that was not something you ever thought you would do. And, when you're dealing with tech, it's like,
I'm not a coder. I'm not an engineer. I'm a marketer.
Right.
So,
and you have these ideas, and then it's, I've had a couple of ventures myself in the tech world, and, building apps or building platforms. And I'm not a tech person. It's the same. I'm a marketer, and I have ideas. And then because of that, you also don't know exactly what you're supposed to be looking for. So that's a whole nother piece to it as well, as learning who are the right people to work with. How do I vet them? It's a big undertaking.
You're so right. One of the things that I've always been able to do really well is, as running an agency, is measure the quality of my colleagues' work. And say, I can jump in and I can check out your strategy, and I can see, what you've been doing. And it's easy for me to jump in and course correct somebody if they need be. I can't do that with engineering, or at least like software engineering. Like I have no idea what their work looks like or how to course correct it. We just have to stay in really close touch. We need to have advisors for the company that I can rely on, will keep everything on the rails on my behalf and supplement a skill set that I don't have.
Right. Totally. So I really want to dive into talking about search engine visibility. And, first, let's just go at the very basic level. It sounds quite obvious, but let's go into clearly what is it and why does it matter to a brand?
Yeah, absolutely. And so maybe what I'll start it off is that what it's not, or
Great.
not exclusively. It's so we're very familiar with the term SEO, which is search engine optimization. And SEO has come to embody the quest to improve the ranking of your own website in search. It's a great objective. It's in practice, it's very, very hard to do. And I think that's where I kind of was like, just kind of the other ways to get in front of a customer than just getting your own website up there. And there's tons of them, but nobody was really thinking about it. And that was something that we were thinking a lot about at my agency, was how to use our particular tool set as a PR practitioners. But then looking at it more granularly, there's all this PR and all this e-commerce content, and there's all these potential touch points, as I keep saying. So really the way that I characterize search engine visibility is the idea of how do you improve or manage the likelihood that a customer will discover your brand in search?
Right.
And it doesn't have to be your own content. It can be any content, because discovery is equally relevant, whether it's somebody recommending your product or you are actually, recommending your own stuff or providing useful, educational materials. However it takes place is a totally relevant customer journey.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So what are some things that maybe a business owner doesn't really know? Like what is there something common that most people are like, wow, I didn't even realize that this is something that I could be doing to improve my visibility?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, it's important to just recognize how critical search is for customer acquisition. There's around 70,000 searches every single second globally on Google.
Wow.
And Google has around 90 to 92% of the world's share of voice when it comes to search. The next largest search engine is Bing at about 2.5% of the world's share of voice. So you have number one at 92 and you have number two at 2. And then it becomes more fractured from there. So we do talk about Google a lot because they're a very, very dominant player in the category. But the fact is that we ask, anytime we have a question and we need an answer, the easiest and fastest way to do it is really pull out your phone or type into your desktop browser a question to search. And it's very predictable where people find their answers. They find them. 70% of all people conducting a search will find their answer, click on one of the first 5 organic links. So 70% of all the traffic is right there at the top of the page. By the time you get down to the bottom of the first page, you have around a 1% click-through rate on that 10th organic link on the page, and almost no traffic to speak of on the second page. So to effectively to spend a lot of energy and money on your own website and getting your SEO from, say, page 4 to page 2 of search results, while it looks good on paper and while it charts beautifully, it has zero impact on your business going from page 4 to page 2. Unless you're on page 1 and really the top of page 1, it really doesn't matter. And now, okay, so that's the real estate we're talking about. It's very, very valuable real estate. And to think about the quality of the customer that comes through search, it's somebody who is specifically looking for the products and services that you offer, right? Like that's why they're there. They typed it in and then you're the result. And so there's, talking about you getting in front of your target customer, like there's really no other place in the world where you can find this magnitude of people looking for such a niche or, specific thing, whatever it might be. And so I really do think it's worth the time and the effort to try to get there in some way or shape or form. If it's your own website, great. If it's not, figure out another way to get there. So with search engine visibility, the idea is how do we improve the likelihood someone's going to find us, right? Period. And there's a couple things that you want to look at. You want to really kind of be scientific and start being really geeky about what the search engine results page looks like. And one of the first things to kind of recognize is this keyword, well, the very first thing you do is try to reverse engineer your own customer's journey. What are the phrases and words and questions and pain points that they're going to type into search to look for a solution? So that's the very first thing, reverse engineer that journey. And then you'll come up with a bunch of words and a bunch of lists. And actually you can kind of build off that kind of short list by using Google autocomplete or something like that. Or also at the bottom of the page, there's usually people also searched for. There's all these kind of recommendations. Or and another thing that's popular is something called people also ask. And that's like, okay, well, yes, you think it's this, but Google's telling you people actually ask these kind of questions. So these are all ways to build out your keyword tree, if you will. So now you have this keyword tree. And now you kind of want to do a little bit more analysis to kind of get it a little bit more fine-tuned, if you will. The next thing you want to figure out is, are these keywords transactional or informational in nature? And what I mean by that is that, and we've all experienced this. Sometimes you type in, let's say you're looking for a pair of running shoes, and you just type in something really broad, like running shoes. The search engine has to make a determination whether you are looking to buy a pair of running shoes, whether you're looking to read about running shoes, like learn about running shoes. Or are you trying to go to a store close by that sells running shoes? Like, what is the intent of that query? And so this is called search intent. And it's a kind of a big deal if you actually want to show up in the search results is to match content with the intent of the query. And what you'll see is a pretty clear breakdown between what I call transactional keywords and informational keywords. And so transactional keywords being keywords that where you're clicking to buy, essentially. And every link on the page is like you're gonna go there, and it's like they're trying to check you out. Whereas click to learn is like you go there and you're reading reviews, and there's no place to buy it on that actual page. You have to navigate somewhere else if you want to buy it, but it's a bunch of comparisons and reviews and information. And so bucketing your keywords within those two categories right away will be a super helpful exercise to recognize what kind of content is going to be successful on this page. And then number two is look and see what's the breakdown of websites that are, say, brand owned by say in the case of running shoes, like a Nike.com. Or is it earned media or PR hits? Is it Runner's World? Is it a bunch of blogs talking about running shoes? And so now you're looking at kind of the structural makeup of the page, and you're getting a really good sense of, oh, this is a PR play. Or you're saying, oh, this is an SEO play. This is a bunch of SEO hits. Or you're going to say, wait a minute, this is all about e-commerce. Like if I want to show up here, we need to have a better relationship or a better conversation with one of our e-commerce partners, because they're the ones that are being rewarded with the top search results for this particular keyword. And then it's a merchandising play. So, I think understanding how Google is elevating different kinds of content is super critical.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're listening to this podcast, I'm guessing you fall into one of these categories. You're an entrepreneur, a small business owner, an online marketer, or maybe an agency owner. I'm also guessing that you want new leads who are excited to buy from you. Am I right? Would you be excited to generate 5 new leads a day? 10? 100? Maybe even hundreds? Do you even know where to begin to do that? Well, I can tell you this, it doesn't begin with wishing and waiting, but it does begin with a successful lead funnel. If you want to have an endless stream of hot leads coming into your pipeline, you'll want to check out the 5-day lead challenge, where you'll learn step by step the high-level strategy to generate leads on demand for your specific business. You'll learn how to build your lead magnet that attracts these leads to you in the coolest way I've seen yet. You'll also learn how to take these people and then turn them into your dream leads. You'll also learn how to follow up with them and how to launch this funnel without having to spend any money. Sounds pretty cool, right? Can I make it even cooler? Okay, here it goes. It's all free. All free. Yes, you can learn all of this for free. So if you're ready to get access to this free 5-day challenge, head over to thedrawshop.com/5day. thedrawshop.com/5 and day. See you there.
So you had mentioned a few different things there, when you're talking about e-commerce, public relations. Let's talk about PR and how important that is for Google and for your visibility and your brand presence, because I think, some people really exercise it and some people are like, nah, I don't need that. I'm totally good. I just do, paid media, or I got some SEO stuff happening. I'm good.
And hey, there's nothing wrong with paid media.
Right.
It's expensive. And you can totally pay to play.
Right.
It's fine. But, I'll give you another anecdote. There's around, I think, a high performing advertisement on Google search does around 2 to 2.5% of all the clicks on the page for a non-branded search term.
Yeah.
And that means that 98 to 97% of the traffic is going somewhere else. Wow. I can tell you that first organic result is receiving upwards of 30% of all of that traffic. And there's a very high engagement right there in that very first organic search result. So, the thing about PR is that you're essentially partnering with a publisher who has a really strong, what they call domain authority with Google. And a domain authority is it's a made up word, but it's the idea that a website has a kind of a very high sense of esteem within Google's algorithm. They have tons of backlinks coming in from other sites. They have high traffic. They have nicely organized code that makes it run really fast, all these things that Google likes. But most importantly, they're considered to be an authority in the subject by a bunch of peers. And that's one of the biggest things that Google looks at. And so, publishers, by kind of definition of what they do, they publish content, they provide all this informational content, they have huge audiences, they just perform super well and the search algorithm. And it doesn't make sense to try to say, I'm going to compete with you. Right. I'm going to try to outrank you. It makes a lot more sense to say, hey, I'm going to get you to write a story about me. And then the authority of your website is much more likely to show up at the top of search. And so that strategy was effectively the strategy that we were pursuing as a PR agency to great success with our clients. It ended up being the most valuable thing we were doing for our clients. It still is. And it also provides like a really interesting roadmap, because I think one of the hardest things for PR professionals is, who do I even talk to? Mm-hmm. How do you list build? List building is like a tough thing. And, who are the people that matter? Who are the influencers? Well, Google can pretty much tell you. Yeah. So they're telling you both the outlets that matter and the writers that matter. And not only, they're also rewarding them with tons of readers. So, using the search results to build media lists is a great way to start a PR practice.
And back to, because I know you've got the agency and you've got Visibly, is Visibly geared towards the actual customer, or is it an agency that you're working with that's bringing this to their clients?
Visibly is totally independent from the agency. They're totally separate companies. The agency, we would love to have lots of agencies use Visibly. There's no particular competitive advantage of my agency versus another agency using it. It's all effectively public data that we just grab and we organize and we scale. So it's like, hey, we're gonna do this analysis of the search engine results page, and we're gonna look for branded content, and then we're gonna organize in a way that you guys can actually have some actionable insights out of. So there's nothing proprietary about actually the data. It's just the organization of the data that makes it very useful.
Okay. So if, let's talk about two different avatars here. If somebody's listening now and they're like, okay, this is something, maybe there's some extra things. I feel a little panicked now. All of a sudden I could be getting all of this traffic and I can be getting, more clicks to the website, but I'm not doing the right thing. What's the first step that person can take to start to pivot their whole brand awareness?
Yeah. So, I kind of spent a little time chatting about it, but the very first thing you do is just get organized with your keywords, and that's a bit of a science in and of itself. So spend some time getting to know your keywords and understanding how your customers find you and understanding their journey. Mm-hmm. And then once you understand those keywords, kind of understand the results those keywords are populating, and you'll quickly bucket them, like I said, between transactional and informational. But on a more granular level, use the results to build lists and understand the landscape that you're dealing with. If it's a bunch of e-commerce sites and you don't have relationships, you're not selling through those e-commerce sites, maybe that should become a priority for you, is opening up those as vendors or as wholesalers. And, if they're the ones that are being rewarded with, these high value search positions in areas that are really important for your business, then you need to be there. That's how I feel. And then number two is like, if it's a bunch of PR hits, well, there's your media list, so now you can do it manually. You could also use Visibly, which is free, by the way. We're not charging anybody. You can come to Visibly, you can cleanly extract all the PR hits without having to go through each and every one and making that determination. So that's what the software does, is it segments the search results, and then you scale that. So each keyword will result in around 10 organic links. So, you look up 10 keywords, now you have 100 potential targets to reach out to and build relationships with and get to know and ask if they'll update their articles, or at least work with them so next time they write a new article, you're included in it. Now, there's no guarantee that their new article will be ranked in search, but you know that this person has a track record of success with Google. So that's half the battle. So that's really how I would encourage you to do it. And then there's also, there might be some of these that just makes sense for you to bid on in terms of a pay-per-click strategy, or to do some of your own SEO, or of your own SEO work. So I don't think it's just, this is a very multi-channel way of approaching search visibility. And I think that's the point. It's like, there's no one silver bullet here. It's understanding how do you maximize the touch points across the search results.
Absolutely. So, now you talk about someone more like me as an avatar who's I'm a marketer. I love marketing, but I am on the communication side, the messaging and the copywriting and the ideas. And then I will, give those ideas to my marketing team, my digital marketing side of the team, and they will be the ones to manage, media buying, SEO, all of those things, all of the analytics, studying all of that. And as much as I think I know, right, when you're viewing reports each month or each quarter and seeing how things are being measured, there's always more, and there's always new things that I will learn that I'll then present to them. So speaking as a business owner who has a marketing team, and for other business owners that are listening who have a marketing team, this is something that you would say, hey guys, check this out. Go to visibly.com. It's free. You're going to get some great insight out of this. What would that look like for them? And is that a good idea to do?
I would hope so.
I would hope so too.
Yeah, I'll say this, that visibly is really, it's most helpful as a solution when you're within a category where there's people talking about your brand that aren't you, or there's conversations being had about recommendations and things like that. Now, if you're like a brick and mortar store and it's really like or you're a hyper local business, visibly might not be the perfect solution for you, and that's fine. That's there's lots of different ways to doing this, but particularly I think if you have a product or service that you're selling to a national audience or a larger audience, that people are going to find you using the internet, and they're going to look for, it doesn't matter where your geographic location is, then all of a sudden it becomes a very valuable way of connecting with those people. And there tends to be more conversations around products that have that degree of kind of like larger scale competition. It's like, oh, how does this product compare to this product, whether it's, a SaaS solution or whether it's a pair of running shoes or a lawnmower or whatever it might be. People do a lot of research online, and that's where you start to see there's all these opportunities that go beyond SEO.
Yes, for sure. One other thing that I have either saw mentioned or you spoke about, but is when you refer to blind spots in your search, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so that's a really good point. So it dovetails everything I've been talking about, and that is the idea that if you're so focused on your own content, and like I said, you should be, but you should also just be seeing everything else that's out there. As PR practitioners, we're like, oh man, like we constantly see reviews or opportunities that we just missed. And they don't like to admit it, but we're like, we should have been on that one. And so how do you course correct? Well, you see it, you add the person to a list, you build a better relationship with that person. You make sure that they're well acquainted with whatever you're offering. And so next time you don't have that miss. It's the same thing with search results. It's like, I'd say a big blind spot, honestly, is like, what if you're selling, I don't know, let's just say like a pair, we'll just use running shoes again, and would say like one of your major retailers is showing up there, one of the top 3 results for say running shoes. And that retailer, for whatever reason, is not merchandising your product or brand on the very first pages, on their landing page. Now, the people who click through, they're extremely likely to make a product buying decision based on the running shoes on that landing page. They're just not going to look that much deeper. You, as the manufacturer of the running shoe, have a good degree of control over the merchandising of what's happening on that page. Now, if you go to that partner, to that like to that wholesale partner, and say, hey guys, here are a bunch of landing pages. How do we come up with a program for us to be merchandised appropriately on these landing pages? And, I think every single retailer is a little bit different. Some will say, well, we don't curate anything there. That's based on reviews, in which case it becomes more of a challenge for you to get your customers to go write reviews on that particular e-commerce site. And then that would boost your algorithm. So all of a sudden you're on that landing page. Or there are other retailers that'll be like, sure, like you can pay us some money, or you can buy, a sponsor position on the side of the page, or maybe we'll just do it because we like you and we think you have a fantastic product. So, I think those are the blind spots I'm talking about, is like really understanding like, oh, these are areas that I know I can influence, but I didn't even realize that they were there.
Right.
I love that. I think that alone is such a great, takeaway. You know, what's really great that I think a lot of people use tools to figure out what their keywords are. And I love how you said there's that auto, it auto fills in what you're looking for. And we've all done that. We've gone to Google, we've gone to a browser, and we start typing something in, and all of these different options come in. Sometimes they're funny too. You're like, well, I didn't think that people would ask that kind of question about this product or service, but they do. And it's popping up because it's popular. And I think that alone is such a great takeaway and discovery if you are looking to see what types of keywords people are using to find your service or product.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's obviously much more sophisticated ways to do keyword research, but if you there's plenty of just, I think, intuitive, strong tools that are entirely free. And for you to start doing your own research on your own, it costs nothing.
Right. Oh, lots of good stuff here. Well, I'm definitely going to sign up and test this out myself for our business. And I'd like to tell our audience how they can do the same. I'm guessing it's visibly.com, correct?
You're right. Yeah. Although it's, make sure you spell it with an A. So yeah,
I was like,
it's visably.com. And I'll also let everyone know it is free. There's no credit card required. It's currently in beta. It's an early platform. We're really collecting a lot of feedback on it right now. I think it's mostly debugged, although you might find something in there. And if you do, let us know. But we're coming out with a much more robust enterprise version of the software later this year, which I'm really excited about, which will allow. So currently what we do is we're basically a tool set that allows you to cross-analyze content for any search results page. So if you had a particular product or brand and you wanted to see like what it looked like, or can a customer find this brand on this search result page without having to go through every single link on the page? We'll just do it for you, and then we organize it really nicely, and then we tell you like how many people clicked on your content and things like that. What we'll do in the future is say, so going back to the Nike example, let's say you're Nike and you want to track 1,000 different keywords that relate to tennis, and you see how you're performing all 1,000 of those. And so now all of a sudden you can search thousands of keywords at a time for a brand, what we would call a campaign. And then we'll be able to look at that data in aggregate as well as granularly if you choose to. But it'll give you a much better glimpse of how the brand is performing within the tennis category.
Amazing. So amazing. And then your agency is Purple Orange. Where can we find more information on Purple Orange?
PurpleOrangePR.com. We're in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we mostly specialize in outdoor and active lifestyle consumer brands.
Nice.
So it's a lot of fun stuff that you play with outside.
So fun.
Yeah.
I love it. And if anyone wants to find more information about you, where can they go?
Check me out on LinkedIn, Chris Dickey, Dickey, and you'll see Purple Orange and Visibly in my profile, and hopefully, reach out. Love to chat.
Awesome. Well, we'll have links, as I always do, to all of those that you mentioned. I really am excited about Visibly, and congratulations on starting it. I'm sure it was. I know how it goes. We put a lot of sweat and tears into starting something like that.
Yeah, but no, I'll tell you, I was so much more terrified about what we were doing 6 months ago. I feel like today we have so much behind us, and I feel really good about the technology. I love what we're doing, and we're getting good feedback, and we have just such an exciting roadmap ahead of us. So thank you.
Well, you're really solving a really big problem and really improving businesses. So it's awesome. I love it. I love a business like this. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us today. So many great, valuable tips that people can implement right now, which is awesome. That's my favorite kind of interview. So thank you so much for sharing that with our listeners.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey guys, I just want to say thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't already done so, would you do me a favor and go subscribe and review this podcast? My goal is to continue to deliver you content that will really move the revenue needle in your business and give you up-to-date content on anything else that can dramatically help your business. You can also find us at thedrawshop.com/podcast, where you can comment on the podcast or contact us directly with any issues you'd like me to address. Thanks again. I really, really appreciate you listening, and I'll see you next time.